All right, let's jump right into one of the biggest, oldest questions out there. What exactly is consciousness? You know, that inner movie that's playing in your head right now and in mine? For centuries, this was just stuff for philosophers to argue about. But now, neuroscientists and AI researchers are in the game, and it has created this incredible modern showdown of ideas.
So let me ask you something. It sounds simple, but it gets right to the heart of it. Is the red you see the same as the red I see? I mean, sure, we can both look at a stop sign and agree to call it red. But what about the inner experience of that color? Is your feeling of redness the same as mine? The crazy thing is, there's just no way to know. I can't peek inside your mind and compare notes. And this private, internal experience, well, that's the battlefield for this whole debate.
Philosophers, of course, have a special word for this, qualia. It sounds kind of fancy, but it's actually the most familiar thing in the world to us. It's just the technical term for the quality of our experiences. It's not the fact that you have a headache, it's the specific throbbing ouch of the pain. It's not just that you're drinking wine, it's that rich, fruity sensation on your tongue. Qualia are the raw feelings of being alive. And whether they're real or just an illusion, that's what splits our two main camps right down the middle.
So yeah, this entire massive debate really boils down to a clash between two major schools of thought. On one side, you have the people who think consciousness is just a product of our brain's incredibly complicated machinery, a really, really convincing trick. And on the other side, you've got those who argue that no matter how much we learn about the brain's wiring, there's still this fundamental mystery left over. Why does it feel like anything at all?
Okay, so first up, let's talk about Camp 1, the physicalists. These are the folks who argue that consciousness can be and will be completely explained by the physical stuff happening in our brains. And their biggest champion, their heavyweight contender, is the philosopher Daniel Dennett. He spent his entire career trying to pull back the curtain on what he sees as a kind of magical thinking about consciousness.
And this quote, it just nails his whole viewpoint. Dennett is basically saying that we are all being fooled by our own minds. We have this deep intuition that consciousness is some single miraculous spotlight shining inside us. But he says no, it's actually a whole bunch of clever tricks cobbled together by evolution. It looks like magic for sure, but if you could see how the trick works, you'd realize it's all just gears and pulleys. His explanation for how this trick works is called the multiple drafts model. See, most of us intuitively feel like there's a little me sitting in a control room in our head watching everything on a screen. Dennett calls this the Cartesian theater. And he says it doesn't exist. There's no headquarters. Instead, tons of different parts of your brain are all processing information at the same time, in parallel. They're all creating these competing drafts of reality. And what we call consciousness is just whichever draft happens to be winning at any given moment. So for Camp 1, the bottom line is this. Consciousness is a physical thing. End of story. That powerful feeling we have that it's something special, something non-physical, that's the illusion. And those qualia we talked about, the redness of red, they're not some mysterious pixie dust. They're just part of the brain's software, part of how it processes information. For this camp, there's no big spooky mystery that science won't eventually crack.
But standing in total opposition is Camp 2. And this group, led by the philosopher David Chalmers, looks at all that and says, whoa, hold on, you're missing the entire point. They argue that even if we map out every single neuron in the brain, we're still left with this deep, profound puzzle that our current science can't even touch. For them, subjective experience is absolutely real, and it's the great unsolved problem. And the heart of their argument is captured perfectly in this classic question from another philosopher, Thomas Nagel. Okay, imagine you're the world's leading expert on bats. You know everything there is to know about their brains, every neuron, every chemical reaction that lets them use echolocation. But would you actually know the subjective first-person experience, what it feels like to be a bat, to see the world with sound? Camp 2 shouts a resounding no. That inner feeling is a totally separate kind of fact. Chalmers gave this a name that really stuck, the hard problem of consciousness. He says, look, explaining how the brain functions, how it focuses attention or pulls up a memory, those are the easy problems. And he doesn't mean they're simple, just that we know how to solve them with neuroscience. But the hard problem is explaining why. Why is all that number crunching in the brain accompanied by any feeling at all? Why isn't it all just happening in the dark without an inner experience? So this slide basically puts the two views head to head. You've got Dennett's camp, the illusionists, who say consciousness is a trick of computation, a solvable problem, and that qualia can basically be explained away. Then you have Chalmers' camp, the realists, who say subjective experience is a real, fundamental feature of the universe. It's a hard problem that might need new science to solve. And Qualia, well, Qualia are the whole mystery. So how on earth do you settle a debate like this? It's not like you can put consciousness in a test tube. So instead, philosophers use what they call thought experiments. And the most famous, most controversial one in this whole fight is the philosophical zombie. I want you to imagine a perfect duplicate of yourself, okay? It walks like you, it talks like you, it laughs at all the right jokes, it even cries at sad movies, it says ouch when it gets poked. From the outside, it's completely indistinguishable from you. But there's one massive difference. On the inside, there's nothing. No feeling, no awareness, no experience. The lights are on, but nobody's home.
This hypothetical being is a philosophical zombie, or a P-zombie for short. Now, let's be really clear here, we are not talking about the moaning, brain-eating zombies from the movies. This is a very precise philosophical tool. It is a being that is physically identical to a conscious person, down to the last atom, but it has absolutely zero inner life, no qualia. It's a perfect simulation with a hollow core.
So Chalmers uses this idea to launch an attack on Camp 1. The argument goes like this. Step 1. Can you conceive of a philosophical zombie? Can you imagine it without any logical contradiction? Most people say, yeah, I think so. Step 2. If it's conceivable, then it must be at least metaphysically possible. It could exist in some possible universe. Step 3. The killer conclusion. If a P-zombie is even possible, then consciousness can't just be a physical thing. Why? Because you'd have two physically identical beings, one conscious, one not. That means consciousness must be some extra ingredient in the universe, beyond just the physical stuff.
And this table really gets to the core of the problem. For Dennett and Camp 1, a philosophical zombie is just logically impossible. It's nonsense. If something is physically identical to a conscious person, then it has to be conscious, because that's what consciousness is, a result of that physical setup. But for Chalmers, the fact that we can even have this conversation, that we can conceive of the zombie, proves that the physical facts don't tell the whole story.
Okay, so with these two big camps locked in this philosophical battle, the debate has pushed other thinkers to explore some even more radical, even stranger ideas about what conscious might be.
So, how about this one, panpsychism? This is the wild idea that consciousness didn't just pop into existence with complex brains like ours. Instead, it's a fundamental property of the universe itself, kind of like mass or spin. In this view, even an electron might have some incredibly simple, tiny flicker of experience. And our big, complex human consciousness? It's just built up from all those tiny bits of consciousness that are everywhere.
And then there's this mind-bending concept of the strange loop from Douglas Hofstadter. He suggests that our sense of self, that I you feel is inside you, isn't a thing at all. It's an illusion created when a system, like our brain, gets complex enough to start referring back to itself. You know that M.C. Escher drawing of the hand that's drawing itself? Hofstadter says that's us. The I is the loop, not a thing. It's a process, a pattern, like a whirlpool that looks like a stable object, but is really just flowing water. Now you might be thinking, this is all just fascinating, abstract philosophy, but it's not. This entire debate is crashing headfirst into the real world thanks to the most disruptive technology of our time, artificial intelligence. The question of whether a machine can be conscious is no longer science fiction. It's becoming a very real engineering and ethical problem.
And no surprise, our two main thinkers see the challenge of AI in completely different ways. For Daniel Dennett, the big danger isn't that AI will actually become conscious. It's that it will get so good at faking it that we can't tell the difference anymore. He worries about a future filled with fake people, destroying the basic human trust that our whole civilization runs on. David Chalmers, on the other hand, takes the idea of real AI minds seriously. He's thinking about a technological singularity where we might actually create genuinely conscious beings, as real as you or me.
And that leaves us with the ultimate cliffhanger. As we build these incredible machines that look and talk and maybe even think like us, are we finally proving Dennett right? Is consciousness just a clever information processing trick that we're about to replicate? Or are we on the verge of creating Chalmers' philosophical zombies on a massive scale? Or maybe, even scarier, are we about to create brand new, genuinely conscious minds with all the mind-boggling moral duties that would come with it? The answer is going to define not just a future of technology, but the future of how we see ourselves.